Alright, welcome back to the New Player's Guide to Lotro. One of Lord of the Rings Online's most underutilized mechanics by newer players, I think, is its crafting system. But why is that? Crafting creates opportunities to make armor, weapons, jewelry, and more that's just objectively stronger than most gear that you'd get by questing. But oftentimes, in lower level areas, the tier of resources available doesn't always line up with the level ranges that said resources appears in. We'll get into all that later, but today I want to go over the crafting system of Lotro, how it works, and why I believe it's very powerful in a lot of circumstances. Be sure to like the video and subscribe for more new players' guides in the future, and with all that out of the way, let's begin.
Let's do it for Gargar!
So, upon clearing the introduction, many starting towns are homes to crafting halls. Sometimes they're spread out over the town, like in Oscaruth in the Lone Lands. Sometimes they're all, in one building or area, like Combe or Mitchell Delving. Either way, there are a few key NPCs that are vital to starting you on your crafting journey. First, there's the Master of Apprentices. By interacting with a Master of Apprentices, you can learn a new profession or replace one that you already have with another one. Second off, you got the vendors. They sell you ingredients in order to craft most recipes and upgrade your resources further using coal and wax. The expert vendors also sell recipes for their respective vocations, so it's good to check in on them when you unlock a new crafting tier. The supplier, meanwhile, sells all of the crafting ingredients, including coal, wax, tin ingots, for all the foresters and prospectors out there. Third, we got the crafting stations themselves, right? All you have to do is stand by one of these bad boys, either interact with it or open up your crafting panel and just craft whatever you need. And finally, we got the Master of Crafting Guilds, which will let you join a crafting guild for any vocation except for the Gatherers, which we will get into guilds in just a little bit.
First we mine, then we craft.
Now, which crafting vocation should you choose, right? This is a very hot topic, and I'm going to be giving my professional opinion on these. I'm not a professional. You get 3. You can technically buy a 4th from the Lotro store to choose from. You get 3. And if you change professions, you have to start all over from square one. There are 10 professions that you can choose from, either being a gatherer or a crafting profession, right? You got the gatherers, which is like foresters, which gathers wooden hides to make materials for woodworkers and tailors. Meanwhile, prospectors, gather ore to be used by weaponsmiths, metalsmiths, and jewelers. Farmers gather ingredients to be made by cooks, and scholars can gather and make their own stuff. As for the actual crafters themselves, tailors use hides to create light and medium armors, cloaks, burglar signals, and captain emblems. Woodworkers use wood to make melee weapons, ranged weapons, captain emblems, champion horns, runekeeper parchments, warden carvings, and instruments. Weaponsmiths craft, metal weapons like swords and axes, burglar trick items, shields and shield spikes for guardians and wardens. Metalsmiths craft heavy armor, shields, and sets of crafting tools. Jewelers craft jewelry, runestones, loremaster talismans, brawler belt buckles, and hope tokens. Cooks, they cook at a pizza. They make food which give you very valuable buffs. Scholars can craft potions and items to make other vocations better, and an odd amount of hunter gear. And my personal favorite thing of all time, dyes, to make your clothes all purty like. Okay, so what I recommend on a first character is either forester or prospector, and then depending on what your class is, tailor or metalsmith, right? If your class uses light or medium armor, primarily, I'd go with forester and then tailor, and then if your class uses heavy armor, I'd go with prospector and metalsmith. I think having consistent armor that dunks on almost anything you could get from questing is huge for thriving in the lower levels. As for a third slot, I think there are a few options you could pick from. If you are a metalsmith, then I see no reason why you shouldn't add jeweler on top of that. But on the flip side, if you are a tailor already, woodworker could also work for a lot of classes like hunter, warden, and minstrel. It might take a little more grinding in the early game, but if you want, you could also have scholar as your third profession. Otherwise, if you want to be a scholar primarily, you could have farmer and cook as that combination. Honestly, I think as long as there's some combination of gathering and crafting and all that, you should be just fine. What would a prospector, forester, and farmer even do? Grind with no remaining inventory space, I guess.
Let's Minecraft!
So now that we've covered the vocations, when you want to craft something, make sure you're in range of said crafting station and either interact with it or open your crafting menu down here. Make sure you click on the item that you want to craft. If you want to boost your chance of a critical recipe as shown below here, hit that and just hit craft. Easy as that. You can also type in the amount of ingredients that you want to make and hit craft. Otherwise, if you just want to watch the bar go by, you can just hit craft all and just watch it go. When you learn a new profession from the Master of Apprentices, you start as an apprentice rank crafter of your vocation, and you gain crafting EXP by crafting items. I mean, that makes sense. When you fill the initial bar, you become proficient in that tier and unlock the next one. This allows you to craft critical versions of the recipes that you already have, but your work isn't quite done yet. You have to gain mastery on the tier you're on, otherwise you can't advance up the tiers. So in total, you have to gain 3 times the initial crafting EXP to go from just starting out on whatever tier you're on to fully done with mastery. Different items gain different amounts of EXP, but the ones you'll want to look out for are under processing, because you can spend 2 of whatever resource you're using and gain 1 back for a total of 16 crafting EXP. This is really helpful as you go through the ranks, because if you have a lot of whatever resource, you can spend them getting proficient and then have a small chance to get some back as you try to get through mastery. When you unlock a new tier of crafting, most of the time you'll need to unlock recipes if you want to be able to craft, everything you can. These can be found in different recipe scrolls found in their appropriately leveled areas, 1 to about 12 for apprentice, 12 to 20 for journeyman, etc., etc. Sometimes these recipes will be one-time only and will require shards, such as like a ruby shard or a sapphire shard or a beryl shard. These are really good recipes, and oftentimes I hoard these, like Smog and his treasure, or Dragach, I guess. That's a really cool dragon too.
They want me to fight the chicken?
So when you reach expert tier in one of the crafting professions, you can talk with the master of crafting guilds to join that crafting guild. There will be an introduction quest taking you to the guild hall in Eriador, whether that be Mitchell Delving for cooks, Thorin's Hall for weapon and metalsmiths, Rivendell for scholars, and Estelden for woodworkers, tailors, and jewelers. These are like the main locations you'll have to go to if you want to buy guild recipes, and in these guild halls you can purchase recipes for craftable reputation items for that guild and automatic critical recipes for those one-time only recipes that I mentioned earlier. Really cool and really good if you want to craft, the best gear for your lower leveled alts. Those are kind of the main 2 things for guild halls, but you can also trade lower tier reputation items for higher tier ones, and I think vice versa. Editor man, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think that's pretty cool too. Be sure to craft these reputation items, as soon as the cooldown lets off. They're very good for unlocking, the next stage and the next tier of progression, and getting all those good recipes are actually really helpful.
Chicken jockey!
So yeah, that's about the crafting system in Lotro. Let me know if you have any further questions down below in the comments. Subscribe, like the video, and subscribe for more new players guides in the future, and I will see you guys later.